Hello everyone. I am asking to present Fateha to present her art presentation on Ghare Baire. Please proceed, Fateha.
Okay, sir. Very good afternoon to respected sir and everybody present here. Today I, Fateha, am here to present my research paper titled Ghare Baire, an inspection of BIMALA'S emancipation. It is based on the novel Ghare Baire, which was published in the year 1916. It has three main characters, Bimala, Nikhilesh and Sandip. Now, before proceeding on, let me give you the backdrop of the novel. The backdrop of the novel is based on the Swadeshi movement. The Swadeshi movement started with the partition of Bengal by Viceroy of India, Lord Curzon, in 1905 and continued up to 1911. The popular one that participated in the movement was Aurobindo Ghosh, Lokmanya Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal and Lala Rajput Rai. Now let's move on to the summary of the novel. The summary of the novel is Bimala is happily married to a forward-thinking man who encourages her to educate herself, but her relationship is challenged when Sandip, a radical man, enters their lives. Now from here on there is a twist, like when Sandip comes, he is a very elite, very radical and vocal person who is an active participant in the Swadeshi movement, but Nikhilesh is not. Nikhilesh and Bimala both are from an aristocratic family. Now let me give you a little more details about this from Rabindranath Tagore's perspective. The novel represents Tagore's battle between the ideas of Western culture and revolution against the Western culture. These two ideas, the fight against the indigenous culture and the Western culture, is embodied by the two central characters, which is Nikhilesh and Sandip in it. Now, Nikhilesh and Sandip in it, and from this perspective, we have known the summary and what was Tagore's opinion. Now, let's focus on the three phases of Bimala's emancipation. These phases are the objective of my paper. The objective, there are several other topics in it. Like, for example, we could write research topics on Miss Gilby, which is the British woman that tutors our Bimala, then Bimala's sister-in-law, Bororani, or the absence of women servants, or representation of lower caste who are shown as not wearing upper garments. These are some of the central ideas that many of us could research on. But what I found most interesting is the journey of Bimala. And now there is also a movie based on this Ghare Baire novel of Rabindranath. It is directed by Satyajit Ray and it was critically acclaimed outside. It was a huge popular hit, I would say. And over there, they said that the novel and as well the movie, it portrays the journey and the emancipation of Bimala. But this is wrong. There is no emancipation found both in the novel and in the movie. And that is the objective of my paper, to analyze it from a feminist lens and bring the causes and the analyzing of part how it is not, to prove it that there was no emancipation present. In fact, Bimala was used, manipulated, and was left and was deserted at the end. There was nobody to support her. So that would be the objective. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the presentation. Sir, I have the presentation. So let's begin from slide number 4, the three phases of Bimala's emancipation. Now over here you can see 3 points. The first phase of emancipation, the second phase, and the third phase. The first phase of emancipation is followed by Nikhilesh's act of setting her free from the shackles of household and relationship duties. Nikhilesh is the husband of Bimala. He was the first person who told Bimala that you need to go out. You need to venture out of Antar Mahal. Now in the novel there are two parts. First is the Antar Mahal and the second is the outside world or the outside courtyard. So women in the earlier days, they were not allowed to cross the Antar Mahal. No matter like they're aristocratic or they're middle class or they're lower class, it doesn't matter. They were always shackled in the Antar Mahal. And the second phase follows Sandip's act of providing her a cause to believe and fight for. This is again problematic and we will discuss it in further details. The second phase follows Sandip's act of providing her a cause and that cause is false. Now the third phase follows Beamless reconfiguring the effect of the first two phases. When hearing Nikhilesh's word, she ventures out to the outside world from the Antar Mahal, and upon Sandip's instigation, she fights for the cause. But at the end, what happens? That is a mystery that we're gonna figure out later. What happens is she is left alone. In the act, I'm sorry to ruin this for people who didn't read the novel, but in the end, Nikhilesh dies, okay? And Sandip manipulates Bimala into carrying a heist, into carrying a robbery of her own jewelry, and then, carry illicit affair with Sandip, which breaks Nikhilesh's heart, and he dies at the end, fighting bravely and courageously in the Swadeshi movement. Whereas Sandip hides away, and which devastates Bimala, because she realized at that moment what is the thing that went into her, and she did all of it. She had no answer, and at the end of the novel as well as the movie, we find her a devastated woman. Now, before proceeding on to those, let's analyze Nikhilesh. Nikhilesh is a learned man.
Sorry for the may I interview. Before go to analyze the Nikhilesh character, could you please tell everybody the very short way to the storyline? If you give them a storyline, it will be helpful to everybody to understand what is going on, because here is three characters. One is Nikhilesh, one is Sandip, and one is Bimala. So Bimala is also related with Sandip and also related with the Nikhilesh. So could you please explain it more and then go to the character?
Okay, sir. So the basic story or the basic plot line of the novel follows as such. There are various step by step, and I will try to explain. I hope I can do it. So yeah, let's go into it. So there are these three characters, Nikhilesh, Bimala, and Sandip. At first, they both are rich people. Nikhilesh and Bimala, they are both from aristocratic family, and everything is going smooth in their family. And amidst the Swadeshi movement, Nikhilesh, however, he does not want to participate in the Swadeshi movement because he does not believe in it. And in this way, Rabindranath puts himself into the novel because he was also against the British rule and everything, but he did not want to go into violence or into threats, into breaking up everything, into creating havoc. He did not believe in it, and so does Nikhilesh. Nikhilesh does not believe in violence, so he does not raise his voice or anything. They both live peacefully, Bimala and Nikhilesh. And at this point, this is the turning point. Sandip comes in, and then Sandip, asks them to join in a meeting where they will be, seeing more about the Swadeshi movement and why they need to participate in it. So Bimala, at first, she was really cowardized. She did not want to move in or, move out of the Antarmahal to the outside. But Nikhilesh asked her. Nikhilesh was like, just go and see, and then you will figure out if you want to participate in it or not. And upon Nikhilesh's, asking, she went out and saw Sandip. And Sandip was this charismatic person who could, sway everything, sway everyone into participate, into, say yes to his action. So Bimala was really fascinated by Sandip, and she agreed to, go with him to meetings, help him in any way they can. So it goes on for a time period, and Bimala was getting distanced, from her husband, and was carrying on an affair with Sandip. And this was very much aware, and this was open. Nikhilesh knew about it, but he allowed Bimala to venture out. He did not force her in any way. He was like, if you are willing to go out, if you are willing to, be in a relationship with Sandip, I have nothing to say. It's upon you. You have the right to, take your opinions, take your choices, to do actions as you please. So she did go out, and then she was all the time with Sandip. This created a rift between them and all the other people in the household, the servants, her sister-in-law, her Bora Babi. Everyone was upset, like why she is getting this right, why she is getting this privilege. Meanwhile, we are not allowed to even show our face to anybody, not even to the brothers and sisters. Why? Because she was a widow. At that time, widows were not allowed. So that was the case. And then she went out with Sandip and everything, and day by day she realized that Sandip is manipulating her. Sandip is taking advantage of her because she's from a rich family and she can put the monetary value, so she would put all the money and people would listen to her. And this is also problematic, how an aristocratic woman is put into the pedestal. She's not goddess, and she is not from working class, so making her the icon so that everybody could relate to is problematic. And in many discourses this has been talked about. So what happens is, after a while, Bimala realizes that how Sandip is manipulating her, and she went on distancing from him and goes to Nikhilesh, but Nikhilesh is already distanced from her. She is not with her anymore, and in the midst there were many problems. Well, Nikhilesh went bravely into the fight, and she was fighting. There was serious havoc going on. Well, Sandip was hiding away, and then forces Bimala like to rob her own jewelry and then pawn the jewelry to get the money to give it to Sandip so that he could carry on some hooligan tactics or some hooligan techniques over there. And then she did, but she was feeling sorry about it, and she was like, I will fix it once I give the money. After then, what I will do is I will lend some money from outside, and I'll again, she pawned the jewelry, right? So she will get the jewelry back and will give it to Nikhilesh. So before doing that, Nikhilesh was in a fight. He dies at that moment, and Sandip just hides. And at the end, Bimala returns to her Antarmahal, and she says that her going out as a woman was a mistake, as if the whole world was punishing her for venturing out with her husband's permission. There is no way a woman could be emancipated after all. So that is the story.
Thank you. Proceed now.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'll go on to the three. I have discussed three phases. Then let's talk about character analysis of Nikhilesh. So in the story, while telling the story, I have already told that Nikhilesh is a very learned man. He's from an aristocratic family, and he was always willing to, accept Bimala the way she is, and to teach Bimala to be a representative of aristocratic class. And for this, he did many of the things. First thing he did was to, bring Miss Gilby. She was a British woman, to teach Bimala some lessons, English lessons, English mannerisms, English songs out of many. And then she used to wear modern blouse, as you can see in the picture. She's wearing a white blouse, red sari, and that white blouse is not particular to Indian custom or Indian culture. It's a foreign material that is, sewn, that is embedded into this new mindset of Nikhilesh. Okay, and then we will see why Nikhilesh's acts of putting this modernist twist on Bimala is problematic. Firstly, the character analyzes Nikhilesh. Second slide. Now over there it's written, firstly, to limit Bimala's choices as she is influenced to wear English patterned blouses to enhance her appearance. It's not Bimala who said that I want to wear English or modern blouses or anything. It was Nikhilesh who asked her to do it, and he did not even ask her opinion or ask her permission. No, he did not. He was like, wear it, and she wore it. And the second point, to restrain Bimala's individualism, as she is asked to take Western musical classes and learn English mannerism to refine her behavior. Again, taking classes from Miss Gilby. It's not her. It's not it's not her who told Nikhilesh, I want to take lessons to learn English or mannerism. It was him again to force her to do it. And lastly, to gain control of her actions, as she is made to follow his decisions at the cost of her comfort, which is evidenced in her hesitation to venture out of Antarmahal to the outer world. As I said previously, it was him who asked her to go out to the outer world from Antarmahal. It was him who forced her. It was not her. And then now this is the Nikhilesh's character, and we have seen 3 points of Nikhilesh's action. Now let's analyze Sandip. Sandip, as I told, is a politically driven individual, a man of folly and treachery, one who could sacrifice anything and everything that comes in his way, to get the thing he wants on. Now Sandip created a false narration of women empowerment for Bimala through providing her with the status of a goddess, because throughout the novel we see she is being, compared to goddess Kali, to goddess Saraswati. And why? She is not a goddess. That is also a problematic notion. Bimala is naive to believe that she is a goddess. She has the power, because she forgot at that moment she is a mere Bengal woman who is not allowed even to venture out of the Antarmahal. Forget about getting the respect as a goddess. Now there we see Bimala's naivety, and also in the statement where she says, I was utterly unconscious of myself. I was no longer the lady of the Raja's house, but the sole representative of Bengal's womanhood. This is statement. Now, this is problematic for various reasons. Let me give you 2 reasons. First, Bimala has the advantage of being an aristocrat, and as such, it provides her with certain benefits. For instance, she was chosen to be the representative of Bengal despite her lack of experience. She never had any kind of experience in the outside world. Secondly, her aristocratic nature would only be sympathetic to her people and not to the marginal group, since she is oblivious to their suffering and desires. This is that she's from an aristocratic family and not from a lower class. So when she is talking about movement and everything, this first hits the lower class people, like similar to the COVID, like whatever situation we are in right now. The virus, we have stacked goods, foods, everything. Like the rich people, I myself have stocked foods. What about the poor people? What about the middle class people? What about them? Nobody cares about it. So when the first any epidemic hits, it's always the poor people. And when you talk about sympathy and everything to the poor people, it's ridiculous. It's hypocritical to the core. Now let's dive into the analysis of the differences between Nikhilesh and Bimala. We have seen a picture perfect couple, Bimala and Nikhilesh, but there are some situations, some power dynamic is going on. First of all, Nikhilesh was from an aristocratic family, but Bimala was not. And this upper class and lower class, it automatically creates a power dynamic situation where one party, I'm sorry for that, where one party is naturally a subordinate to the other. In this case, Bimala. Bimala is subordinate to Nikhilesh. Now, Nikhilesh gains an unfair advantage because of this power dynamic situation. Now, because of power dynamic situation, she's from a lower class, so she's bound to follow and abide by the rules of Nikhilesh. Another factor that could fuel this difference is Bimala's skin complexion. Normally, an aristocratic family, they always look out for, in that time, like it was under colonization, and India still favors white complexion people, like they are the ultimate superiority. It's like that all the time. And during that situation, Nikhilesh has shown that he's a cultured man by accepting Bimala. But by accepting Bimala, he's also put Bimala into a situation where she would always be subordinate, where she would always have that complexity in herself that I should be devoted to this man because this man has accepted me without any regard to my class, without any regard to my skin complexion. This too has created a subordinate position for Bimala. Now, analysis of the behavioral attitude of Nikhilesh and Sandip. Now, the hypocrisy of Nikhilesh. I was talking about the hypocrisy. Now, this is the hypocrisy part where I'll explain it. Nikhilesh wanted her to become a woman of knowledge and gain experiences everything that the world has to offer. He encouraged Bimala to cross the threshold and venture out of Antarmahal to the outer world. However, his wishes do not reflect Bimala's compliance. And this is the hypocrisy of Nikhilesh. He is showing how much he cares for her. But what about her opinion? What about her choice? There is no compliance. Hypocrisy of Sandip. Sandip controls Bimala indirectly through encouraging her to join his terror crusade in the name of nationalism. Sandip understood the naive nature of Bimala, which he then utilizes to manipulate her. Sandip creates a false narration of women empowerment, providing her the status of a goddess. As I have told before, goddess Kali, goddess Saraswati, and goddess Sati, all those goddesses. Bimala's naivety is apparent in her statement, I was utterly unconscious of myself, as I have read the statement prior. Now, consequences, slide number 15. Consequences of the false narration of women empowerment by Sandip. Now, Sandip created a false narration by giving her the impression of a goddess. A new Bimala is created in return, who thrives on false power and security. She is influenced to believe that a thing is reflected in her actions, which is untrue. It is not her, rather it is Sandip who is orchestrating this facade of nationalistic sentiments in order to relish on blood that would have otherwise hindered in the fulfillment of his selfish motives. Now, Sandip's act in relation to Bimala could be interpreted in many different ways, but there are two in which I have interpreted. Firstly, it could be interpreted from Marxist critic Althusser. So he was a famous Marxist critic, and we are going to talk about his ideology of his theory of ideology, and this is the one. The Althusser explains how religion interpolates a population to induce their belief in any kind of ideology, and this is seen in the Sandip's act of pedestalizing Bimala. Sandip created an ideology where he presents Bimala as a goddess who has to take upon the responsibility of saving her country from the brink of destruction. She is made to believe in an illusion where she is respected and is given equal importance to a man, but this is untrue. The now analysis of Sandip's action from Althusser's ideology, part 2. The nationalist movement readdresses the concept of independence of women with a chosen class as the representative of the entire Bengal. Sandip's statement, I shall simply make Bimala one with my country, is yet another problematic statement. This statement could be interpreted in two ways. Firstly, Sandip believes both Bimala and the country, which is considered a woman, to be weak and vulnerable, and as such, they need the active participation of masculine man to rescue her of the imprisoned predicament. So in a way, they are showing the toxic masculinity over here, showing that the women Bimala and also the country, that women, they both are vulnerable, they both are weak, and they need a man to, keep them out of this problem, to keep them out of this solution. It seems like, to keep them out of the situation, not the solution, I'm sorry, to keep them out of the situation. It seems like Bimala and the country both are damsel in distress, which is utterly untrue. Now, this statement could be interpreted again In the second format, secondly, Sandip manipulates and exploits both Bimala and the country to his own advantage, and upon the acknowledgements of Bimala and the country to be weak, he in a way took advantage of both of them and has asked them, how they could be saved from it as if it was needed. It wasn't. And the observations, this was the end of my analysis and the research paper, and from all of this, what I have observed is written in the slide 18, observations. The dichotomy experienced by women as part of the reforms is a response to the claim of the British that Indian people are uncivilized and barbaric. In this way, they have created various dichotomies. First dichotomy, home and the world. Second, spiritual and material. Third, traditional and modern. Fourth, male and female. Now, this dichotomy is a response of the nationalist movement. Nationalist ideologies justified these dichotomies by saying that the material world is for male, as it demands practicality and ideals and deals with businesses. The spiritual world, which holds India's superior culture, requires conservation, and hence women represented. So in a way, they have created this thing where women are only made for being the caretakers of children and their husbands and their households, and they could not be deserving of any other superior position. In a way, it has said that, and that was the motive of my research. And then let's come to the second point. It highlights the hypocrisy of the nationalist movement and comments upon the dichotomy forced upon Indian upper class women. The nationalist movement reinstated women's role as caregivers instead of fighters. It led to a clear construction of social identity and role of gender in society. It brings forth the contrast visible in the actions of both Nikhilesh and Sandip, the relentless pursuit of transforming Bimala into a Bhadra Mohila by Nikhilesh, and simultaneously encouraging her to turn modern in her thinking and appearance. Now, the ultimate conclusion is Beamless education is required so long she could successfully play the role of an intellectual and emotional companion to her husband. Throughout the novel, Bimala is treated differently by people with differing intentions. She was treated by Nikhilesh as equal to him by allowing her the freedom to act independent of him. Later, she was treated by Sandip as a goddess who is meant to be the savior of the nation. And at last, as a woman without any identity of her own. In every version, she is known in relation to a man, as a wife, as an object of desire, and as a naive woman susceptible to any kind of manipulation. The aspect of her being thrown into an alien environment by her husband is not proof of his own open-mindedness, rather is proof of his controlling behavior. He encouraged her to venture out without ensuring guidance, which cannot be the act of an honorable man or husband, rather it shows his inability to comprehend direness of any given situation. Toward the end, when Bimala seeks Amalya's help, she utters, "I'm a woman, and the outside world is closed to me. Else I would have gone myself." And this is really beautiful. This line is really beautiful. It shows all the vulnerability, all the pain that she has experienced throughout. This statement is indicative of her maturity upon the shattering of the equal world, where she has been manipulated and pedestalized as a goddess, only to be left alone at the end. In a way, I believe this is this is the act of penalization for venturing out of the Antar Mahal. And this is the end of my presentation. And if there are any more questions, like whichever I cannot answer, then definitely you can go to this links and you can read more about it. I'm sure it will be an interesting experience. Thank you.